Now, today's top stories and Power of 5 weather from News 5. Sponsored by Akron Children's Hospital.
Good Sunday morning, Northeast Ohio. We decided to get out of the studio this morning for, I guess, what we could call a Lake Erie edition of Democracy 2022, because we're looking at ways to grow the economy from it, ways to draw power from it, while at the same time looking at ways to protect it. We're going to begin with the former. When plans were announced earlier this year to bring a submarine repair operation to the North Coast, it may have seemed far-fetched to some, but now those behind the plan say they have the ear of Washington. The nearly 20-year base realignment and closure process that started in the late 80s saw the closing of more than 350 military installations, including several naval facilities. It left the Navy, though, with only 4 public shipyards, which they thought would be enough in a post-Cold War era. Reports show it isn't.
The U.S. Navy does not have enough organic infrastructure to properly maintain the submarine force.
That's what prompted Captain Ed Bartlett to found the Bartlett Maritime Corporation with an outside-the-box approach to fixing the problem that has caused more than 75% of naval shipyard maintenance work to be completed late. The Bartlett Maritime Plan looks to build 2 dry docks in Lorain that could handle up to 4 submarines for repair at once, employing a good 3,000 people, with another 1,000 employed in Lordstown, where a manufacturing and supply depot would be built to support the work. In Lorain, they are ready.
We're hoping that at some point before the end of the year, that Bartlett starts sending workers from Lorain in the Lorain area for training, and that we're up and running sometime in 2023.
Bartlett says the training of welders in conjunction with Lorain County Community College and Lincoln Electric would be part of Phase 1, which would come into play once they are under contract, which is still pending.
No definitive date on when there'll be a contract, and part of it depends upon when fiscal year 23 budget is passed and funding becomes available. But we're hopeful to be under contract before too long.
While they wait, the site selection process continues in the 2 cities. That process, too, awaiting the final okay from Washington.
We know where we want them, but we're not ready to announce them publicly until we actually are under contract and get going.
And again, they tell me that they had a series of meetings recently with Navy brass in Washington, and they remain hopeful they will have something to announce fairly soon. Well, in a few years, submarines may not be the only thing you're going to be seeing new on Lake Erie. You might be seeing these wind turbines. No, not that big, because they're going to be 8 to 10 miles out. This all comes this week after the Ohio State Supreme Court cleared the last of the legal hurdles looking to block them. We first told you about the plans to add 6 massive wind turbines off the coast of Cleveland in 2018. They would be enough to power some 7,000 homes and would be placed out of the shipping lanes and beyond most recreational use about 8 to 10 miles from shore. The Icebreaker Wind Project, as it was known, would mark the first time the U.S. wind turbines will be put into a freshwater lake.
This is a chance to be really visionary, create the future that we want to have.
The hope of LECO President Dave Karpinski at the time was to clear the remaining regulatory hurdles and have the wind farm up and running at the end of this year. But there were challenges ahead of them. Concerns about the threats to migrating birds and other wildlife were addressed, requiring radar systems to monitor peak times of activity and patterns of migrating birds, while also requiring the turbines would not be spinning at night from March 1st through June 1st until they could prove post-construction the bird and bat collision monitoring plan satisfies ODNR. Then this week, the Ohio State Supreme Court overwhelmingly ruled 6-1 against the last challenge, allowing now the project to move forward.
This would be the first in deep water in a Great Lake.
Port Authority President and CEO Will Freeman is a LECO board member. Despite the court delays, he says Cleveland is still positioned to be at the forefront of what he calls the offshore wind boom,
Which is happening all over the world. It's happening on the East Coast. And we can be the center of it for the Great Lakes if we can move this project ahead.
One of the main concerns that remains, how will they look? LECO estimates that at the distance they'll be placed out in the lake, they would look like this from the shoreline. As for a new timeline,
if we could be in the water building in 26, that'd be fantastic.
Well, now the waters of Lake Erie are safe to swim in today, but it wasn't the case earlier this week on Tuesday after heavy rains on Monday night. Those rains forced a discharge of sewage and stormwater runoff at Edgewater and several other spots, forcing beaches to be closed. You see, Cleveland is one of 800 cities across the country that have what are called combined sewers, where the sewage from your homes travels in the same pipes as the stormwater from your street to the water treatment plant.
So when you have heavy rain that falls, There's only one of 3 places that this water can go. It's either flooding the plant, flooding homes, or it discharges into the environment.
At Edgewater, it does so through this discharge site. What sits behind it are brick-lined, century-old tunnels we took you into a few years back. Back in the early 70s, a good 9 billion gallons of untreated water would flow through century-old tunnels like these directly out into the lake. Now, over the last 4 decades, they've been able to cut that down to about 4 billion. The goal eventually, get it down to under a $500 million. They're doing that through Project Clean Lake, the largest infrastructure project in Northeast Ohio history, but one you likely never noticed, except for the fact that the $3 billion price tag is entirely ratepayer funded. The project consists of 7 massive miles-long storage tunnels under Greater Cleveland that can hold millions of gallons of that combined water and sewage during a storm until they can be pumped out later, treated, and pumped back into the lake.
3 of those are currently operating, and we have 2 under construction at this point.
The 3 that are now open can prevent 1.7 billion gallons a year of that combined sewer overflow from flowing into the lake. The 4th tunnel to go online next year is the Westerly Tunnel, just above Edgewater, that stretches 2 miles under Tremont and Ohio City. It will prevent another 330 million gallons from going into the Cuyahoga River each year. While it won't prevent entirely inconvenient days like this at Edgewater, the efforts are at least making them less frequent.
It used to discharge about 40 to 50 times 40, 50 years ago, and now we're down to maybe once every year.
With Democracy 2022, I'm John Kasich. Enjoy your Sunday.
Today, scattered showers are going to be possible, but there's also going to be periods of dry time, especially the more north and east you live. Tomorrow, breezy, temperatures into the middle 70s. So currently, as we round about 9 a.m., you're seeing this area of rain. That is where we're going to have the best chance for showers, not only right now, but throughout the duration of the day, including the afternoon. So if that's where you live, plan on repeated rounds of some rain, ending up with maybe 1/4 to 1/2 inch of rain. Elsewhere, up to the north and east, you see that there's a few spotty showers here and there, but they are going to be hit and miss and lighter. So most likely in this dark area in green, as you move up into this brighter green, that's where you're going to have more dry time. It's still going to be a cloudy day with rainfall totals probably less than 1/100 of an inch or less than 1/10 of an inch in most locations. We are going to stay in the 70s for most of this week. It is not until Friday that we get closer to average temperatures around the lower and middle 80s.
Sponsored by Akron Children's Hospital.